first question was, what was the career plan that you had when you were in high school?
When I was in high school, clearly I wanted to be a doctor. And I actually took a bunch of advanced courses in everything from biology, chemistry, physics, calculus, you name it. I took all the advanced courses I could so that I could challenge as many courses as I went to college. Because I knew I was going to be paying for my own education. I know that sounds crazy, but that was my career plan. And my first 2 years of school, I actually studied in pre-med to become a doctor, but then changed that focus, not because I didn't really like the program, but I didn't like the outcome. I don't know how, when I was in college at the tender age of 18, that somehow I knew this day and time would arrive where doctors would be gravely disappointed with things like COVID-19, problems with the people, we have no room to treat you, you've got a surgery that we need to do that you're just going to have to wait on, things like that. I knew it would be really disappointing. So I changed my curriculum, decided I wanted to become a high school problem counselor. So I would have been at the secondary level, and I got a degree from Carroll College in Helena, Montana in secondary developmental educational psychology. But in my final year, in my senior year, I wanted to raise money for the Muscular Dystrophy Association. This is a crazy story. I wanted to raise money for muscular dystrophy, wanted to do a dance marathon. You might have to ask your parents about those, but they were very popular in the 70s. Went to the #1 radio station in town, laid out a program of what I wanted to do for the program director, laid out the entire operation. When I got done, he asked me if I'd like to be a disc jockey, and he offered me a job.
So since in high school, definitely seems like you didn't want to be a meteorologist, what made you switch?
Well, I've always had a love of weather. I've always been interested in weather. I grew up in Great Falls, Montana, where there definitely is weather. There's a lot of wind there that blows off the edge of the Continental Divide. They get downslope winds. They get very severe weather. They've had winds that are like 90 miles per hour that blow through that area. They have severe thunderstorms. They have tornadoes. They have all 4 seasons. Winter just happens to be the longest. I did get a little bit tired of some of the long winters in Montana. So when I moved here, I still wanted to live in an area where we had all 4 seasons, but where winter would be the shortest. And clearly that's where we live.
Yes, that is. Can you describe what it was like to get into the news industry back when you had started?
Well, because of the fact that I was just offered a job based on my voice, the program director from the radio station liked my voice, he liked my delivery, he liked the way that I communicated. And so he just asked me if I'd ever thought about being a disc jockey. He asked me to do an audition tape. I did. He listened to it. They sponsored the dance marathon. We raised a lot of money for muscular dystrophy, but I ended up getting into the business. And I thought, well, this is kind of fun. I got out of the business when I graduated. I was looking around. I wasn't exactly positive. There weren't a lot of jobs that were being offered back in those days in the educational programs. So I'd also studied law. So I decided I was going to go to law school. I took the LSAT, which is the law school admissions test. I was qualified and accepted at 2 law schools that I applied to, the University of Montana Law School and the University of Idaho Law School. And I was going to enroll in the University of Montana. A friend of mine from radio said, hey, I work part-time at this TV station. Maybe you should come by and probably do something for us, be a camera operator. Or he said, hey, heck, you probably just voice some stuff for us because you got a great voice. So I went to the TV station, and they were actually, I didn't realize it, looking for an on-air sportscaster. I had a lot of background in sports because when you are going to be a high school problem counselor, you end up coaching. And I had a great interest in that. And I don't know if you can see the things behind me, but I've coached little kids, the Optimus football program. I spent 17 years as a head coach in Optimus football. I also coached my children in basketball, baseball. So I've done a lot of coaching of children in sports and always enjoyed that. But I had a big background in sports. Anyway, I got hired on the spot as a sportscaster. So for me, it was not difficult to get into the business, even though for a lot of others it was. But I was blessed by a voice that everybody really liked and really loved. And because of it and my ability to just simply speak, I got the jobs.
In your opinion, how do you feel like it's changed for people trying to get into the news industry today?
I think it's a lot more competitive now. You definitely need an education. You need a college education depending upon how far you want to go. Now, we still have entry-level jobs at the station, and a lot of places do, But those entry-level jobs are actually becoming more automated than anything else. They're being consolidated, master control work, where you would sit in the master control area and you would switch programs and run commercial breaks. It's all being done in larger facilities where one or two people oversee it, as opposed to having a team of people who run your station all the time. So it's becoming more competitive. So the education that you get is going to make a difference, you know, and the things that you're find are going to be really important to you are going to be writing, English, because that's a challenge. If somebody comes in to do an interview and they don't seem to speak the language correctly and they can't write correctly, they're going to be excluded. If you don't have a college degree, your resume is going to be shuffled to the bottom of the pile. And there's always a stack of resumes on my boss's desk for everybody's job. So if they're looking for somebody, they can find somebody. And for the most part, in this area, we want somebody who has worked somewhere else in a smaller market first before they come to work for us. So you need to have some experience. So you have to also be willing to go to a smaller area where you might get started. In Idaho, that would be something like Pocatello, Twin Falls, Lewiston has a TV station, or you might have to go into Wyoming, Montana, to some of the smaller markets there and get started in some of those places. And there's other places around the country that have small markets to give you a good start, depending upon where you finally want to live.
With being a meteorologist, does this feel like a job to you, or is it something that you look forward to when you wake up?
Oh, I look forward to it every day. It never feels like a job. I honestly can't believe they pay me anything at all to do this job, because it's fun. And my job is twofold. As more than just a meteorologist, I also go out into the community and I promote everything from programs that students like you are involved in to nonprofits, fundraising. I'm still the very basis that got me started in what I do. All started when that program director looked at me after I said, "Really, you want me to be a disc jockey?" And he goes, "But yeah," but he says, "But you know, if you worked here, you could promote this even more." I didn't know that phrase would forever change my life, but it did, because it gave me. So there's two parts to my job. The main portion, of course, is forecasting the weather. It's exciting to me to give people the forecast, to let them know that when they plan their life, and let's face it, people live here because they love the outdoors. They want to get outdoors. They want to go somewhere, whether that's a hike, walk the dog, go camping, hunting, fishing, whatever the activity may be. So much of what we do here is outdoors. So to me, it's exciting to give them the forecast, or even to plan what's going to happen, what's going on, you know, what season are we in now, that people want to know what is going to be happening outside for them. And like I say, then the community service. And I do a lot of community service programs, not since COVID-19 and the pandemic. A lot of programs have been halted, but before that, I would MC a lot of different activities and events. And even though I've never had any formal training, I'm a pretty good auctioneer.
What is some advice you would give to like high school students wanting to get into the news production industry?
Study very hard in the programs that you think you don't like. English, history, math, those ones, the ones that seem challenging, they just don't seem like that much fun in school. Those core basics are the ones you really need to concentrate on. English is so important in our business. In what I do, it's math and science all the way. I mean, and it's things like, you know, like calculus, it's statistical analysis. I cannot tell you how many times I look at things and I look at the statistical average based on the statistical norm. The statistical norm is a radius of numbers plus or minus the standard deviation. You have to calculate those kinds of things, and you have to understand exactly what that means. And so that's really important. And so my job is science and math and English.
How does it feel to be back on a Vallivue High School news production 22 years later?
I think it's exciting, because right now there are actual students who were back 22 years ago who are adults, who have children, who are in school. So when I go to a classroom to talk about weather, or these days I've been doing some Zoom, there's always a student that'll come up and tell me that their parent was in class when they were in the third grade, and I came and talked to them about the weather. And now they're in the third grade, and I'm talking to them about the weather. And when they told their parent, "Hey, Larry Gebert's coming to my school," they go, "Oh yeah, it came to my school when I was in the third grade." Now get this. One of my bosses, who actually was a producer for us, became the news director, my direct boss, then became the CEO of our station, and went on to a larger station within our corporation. When she got her job as the news director, she sat down and told me, she says, I really think it's great that you go out in school and talk to classes about the weather. She says, because when I was in the 4th grade and you came to my class, I was very excited to see you there. And she was my boss.
I remember I was very excited when you responded to me reaching out to you.
Yeah. Hey, that was a trick for me because I'm not real good on social media, and I had to figure out the whole Messenger thing and figure out how to respond to you on Messenger. So you taught me something.
I saw the old archived 2000 episode with you in it on YouTube, and I spent the entire next day trying to figure out how to contact you. And
yeah?
finally did. I was like, okay, I hope he responds, but he might be busy. And then you responded, and I was just so ecstatic that you did.
Here's a thought, okay? To reach me is a lot easier than you think. There's an old device, an old device that people called telephone. And you can actually call the station and ask for me, and they'll transfer it to me.
I didn't know that. Another question is, how long have you been working with KTVB?
I've been there for 30 years. And I've been in this business for 44 years.
What other companies have you worked at, and how did they differ from KTVB?
Well, actually, they're all quite different from KTVB. In this area, I worked for Channel 2 when I first came here for about a year. I worked for Channel 6 for about 3 years. Then there's an overlap in there. I worked for Channel 12 for a while before they had news programming of any sort. They later went into that, but I was their public affairs director. I worked in radio. I worked at KIZN radio. I worked at KCIX, which is now Mix 106. I was there for 9 years. I was at Kizn radio for about 1.5 years. I also worked at a radio talk program that I did at KTOX. That station doesn't exist anymore. It's now a jazz station. So a lot of things have changed. And then I came to work at Channel 7 in 1991. But like I say, some of that overlapped in between. So those are the companies that worked here. In Montana, my very first radio station was KCAP. It was a very small radio station. But then again, Helen is a small town. In Great Falls, I worked at in my hometown at my hometown TV station, KFBB. And then I went to Billings, Montana, a little bit larger market, paid me a little bit more as a good stepping stone. And it was KULR, Channel 8 there. But I also did some radio stuff. So I've always had a career that overlapped. I've always done radio and television at the same time. And right now, I still forecast the weather on 7 different radio stations every morning as well. There's a bunch of stations in the Impact Radio group, which is like the Bull. And I forget, there's about 3 or 4 of them in there. As 101, I think, is the Bull. I can't remember all of them that they are. But also KTSY, which is the Christian radio station. And they've got stations in the Magic Valley that I'm on there as well.
Do you prefer being on radio broadcast or TV broadcast?
I've never had to choose. I've always done both. And I've always enjoyed both because they're quite different. But I probably like television the best if I really had to make a choice. I've always enjoyed working in television. I've enjoyed the relationship that it's given me with the audience, because when we're on the air, especially in the morning, we're asking people to invite us into their home. And early in the morning, sometimes that means that somebody wakes up, their alarm goes off, they might have a remote, they might turn on the TV, they're still laying in bed, watching the news. So if you think about it, we're asking them to invite us to join them in their bedroom. And so this takes on a kind of a feel for these people, like they really know us. And so maybe they have had, and I'll have somebody walk up to me that I've not met before, maybe at a grocery store, maybe at Western Idaho Fair, maybe at some event that I'm at, and they have been having a conversation in their head with me that's gone on for years. And they just pick up right where they left off. And I have no idea where we are in that conversation, but I'm just listening to it and I'm going, oh yeah. And they're telling me about their Uncle Fred and how he's doing better and he's recovered. Remember, he had this problem. And I go, yeah, that's great. I'm glad he's doing better. But you'd be surprised. I mean, but people just get very comfortable because they feel that they've been inviting you into their home for such a long time. And in a lot of ways, I really enjoy the fact that they feel that good about me, because I enjoy that. I enjoy, you're like, or even you felt that it was okay to reach out to me and just to simply, say, hey, can we ask questions?
So that is all of the questions I have for you today. I do thank you for responding to me and helping me set this up. It was very exciting.
Well, and educational for you, I'm thinking too, because you had to try it 2 different ways.
Yeah,
Well, thank you very much.
you're welcome. Thank you for agreeing to be on our VSPN.